You take our work and think of work as being like a gift. I personally believe that one of the greatest gifts outside my love that I can give another human being is my labor. But there's 3 gifts of labor you might have within your nature, meaning you can master anything, but under stress, people tend to go back to their true nature. And there are 3 gifts of labor that you can give. One of those gifts we might call the gift of being an artist or a talent, or another word for it would be a truly skilled producer. Some people, the reason you know this is your gift is what you love to do is to create a product or service and deliver it to people, and you're enamored by that. So when someone is in it as an artist, and by the way, most businesses are started by artists. There's somebody who was an amazing negotiator, an amazing fashion designer, amazing code writer. And they said, I work for this company and they don't do a good job for customers and I can do a better job. I don't work for them. And they start their own company thinking that the company is all driven just by the sales or the negotiation or the code or the fashion. But a company is much more complex than that, especially as it grows. So an artist is in it for the impact. And yes, they want to make money, don't get me wrong, but it's not the first thing and they won't trade it. When I talk to artists about selling their business, they look at me like I'm trying to sell their child. The second gift you might have is the gift of being a manager leader. A manager leader is someone who lives to manage people and processes. They love to figure out how to maximize a business by changing the gears, creating a new process, working with people. And those people love it. Now, they are not artists in that their talent or skill, they're not there delivering it directly to the client. They want to work on the people that are directly delivering the client. They want to work on the system that makes this business work. And so they think it differently. They're inspired by different things. They make different decisions. Is one better or worse than the other? Yes or no? No, they're just different. And by the way, you might say I have both those skills. I bet you do, but they're not equal because they're different types of skills. So you might have them both, but there's one that is your true nature, that when things are going well, you're going to go back to it. When things are really up, you're going to go back to it. Under stress and under excitement, we return to our nature. By the way, a great company can't be great without great artists, talent, who really deliver extraordinary products or services. A company cannot maintain greatness and grow unless they have some great manager leaders who can run the process and the people. They're both critical components. The third choice of service, the true gift you can give, is that of an entrepreneur. And while most of you in this room would call yourself an entrepreneur and you would be entrepreneurial, by this definition, it's a little different. Most people think of an entrepreneur as anybody who starts multiple businesses. No, that's not true. Some artists are multiple businesses because they want to get all kinds of things for all kinds of people. Some managers want to do multiple businesses so they feel like they got multiple systems. But an entrepreneur is in it for one thing, the juice of risk. They want to make money. And by the way, an entrepreneur, will they sell this business? Yes or no? For the right price, they'll sell anything. And their mindset is, sell it, I'll start another one. Sell it, I'll buy another one. They are not attached. They might enjoy the product or service. They might be proud of the product or service, but they're in it for the risk. And they're the kind of person that when they lose massively, they jump up, dust themselves off, and want to do it again. People get vested in their trauma. People get vested in their pain. If you want to know the largest drug on the planet, it's not cocaine. It's not heroin. It's not pot. It's not, some prescription drug. The biggest, drug on the planet is problems. Because everyone has a deep fear. Everyone. And the deepest fears we have are 2. One is that we're not enough. We're not smart enough, young enough, rich enough, pretty enough, funny enough, something enough. And if we're not enough, it's the deepest fear we have, which is we won't be loved. And love is the oxygen of the soul. So, a baby is, if they're not physically, kinesthetically loved, they develop what's called failure to thrive syndrome. That's how desperate our nervous system is for love. So human beings, when they think, oh my God, if I fail at this, it'll look like I'm not enough and I won't be worthy of love, they tend to come up with a reason why that's either not their fault, it's something that was done to me. I've got ADHD, I was born with it, I was raped, I was whatever. And they might even tell the truth. Someone may have really raped them. It's a horrible situation. But other people have raped and they've gotten through it and they're on the other side of it. This person hasn't because it becomes their reason for not being where they want to be in their life. And so the bottom line is a mother can lose her daughter or son through a drunk driver and spend the rest of their life in pain. And another one creates MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, and does something about it and feels a sense of freedom and a sense of serving that child and a sense of higher purpose in what they're doing. So it's not the problem. It's not the trauma. It's finding what they value more than their problem. And everyone has a place where there's something they value more than their trauma. Some people get out their trauma because they realize I've been so traumatized, the loss of this child, that my other child feels completely unloved. And they realize I'm losing that love. I'm losing that child if I don't get my shit together, right? They need a higher level of what's called leverage. Leverage is what makes change a must, not a should. As long as it's a should, you'll have your story. And your story could be a true story, and you'll tell your story and share your story with yourself or other people or both, and you stay stuck. But trauma is, it's a bruise. It's not a tattoo, right? Any bruise can be healed, but not unless you're vested in healing it. And what a lot of people do, I remember when I was diagnosed with a tumor in my brain, I've seen this happen so much that I didn't tell anyone. I didn't even tell my spouse at the time the first day. I was trying to process it because I didn't want people to start treating me differently. And so the only person who knew for the first day or two was my assistant because she had talked to the doctor. So before I'd even been able to tell my spouse at the time, all of a sudden, everyone treated me like I was indestructible. I taught people to do that. It's like, because I want to help everybody. So there was no. It's like, I'll do whatever it takes, right? So it was inhuman at the time. And suddenly my assistant started saying, we shouldn't book that right now. And we shouldn't do this right now. And I started getting love and attention and connection for having this problem. And I was like, whoa. I'm not going to go down that slippery slope. But that takes a really conscious mind to do it. And lucky for me, I've had a chance to deal with millions of people. So I see these patterns all the time. But most people, their problem is their drug. It's the drug against the fear that I'm not enough and I won't be loved. Even if they go, no, it's me, I'm so messed up. What they're really saying is reassure me, love me. They're wanting that connection through their problem. So you got to decide there's something you value more than your problem. When you decide that, you can make it happen. I look for who are the people producing the greatest results, not who can talk a good game, who's producing the result. A lot of people can talk about it. It's interesting. I'm a results guy. And I believe in modeling. My original teacher was a man named Jim Rohn, you probably heard of, and he used to always say, success leaves clues. If you want something, make it a study, immerse yourself. So when I wrote Money Master the Game, I said, okay, I've been coaching Paul Tudor Jones, one of the top 10 traders for 25 years. I know more than most people ever know in a lifetime, but I want to know it all. So I'm going to interview 50 of the smartest financial people on earth. Ray Dalio, Carl Icahn, right? Warren Buffett. I want to interview people that started with nothing and became multi-billionaires, and they're all different. But my whole belief is you look for, there's like 3 skill sets that we all should have if we're great. And you're really good at these, Jim. I'm not throwing smoke your way. It's just the truth. What's made you great, what makes me great, what made everything take off for any type of business or life is understanding pattern recognition. If you understand pattern recognition, you know what to do with finance. If you understand pattern recognition, you know what to do in business. If you're great at pattern recognition with music, you can do an amazing job. If you're good at pattern recognition with dancing, you can move your body in ways most people never dream of. The people that become masters at pattern recognition, but then pattern utilization, they recognize the pattern, but then they use it. Those are the people that have extraordinary lives. And then there is 1/3 level, and that is pattern creation, where you literally start. You played other people's music so much, and now you know enough that now you're able to create your way of doing things. And I think those 3 skill sets are there. So my process is who's the best in the world on earth and how to get access to them. And at this stage of my life, that's not that difficult to do. But even with the money book, I knew some of them, but then I'd say, listen, I get 4 or 5 people I knew to refer me, and I'd say, give me 30 minutes. My average interview was 3.5 hours. I remember Jack Bogle, who's now passed away, who created Vanguard, saying, I invited Tony Robbins into my house for 30 minutes, and 3.5 hours later, I had the most probing interview of my entire career because, I'm pulling those tools out. And once they saw the level I was playing the game at, then they wanted to help. And that's, now Ray Dalio is a good friend of mine. So the people I have access to that I can pitch and catch with, because I immerse myself and because I learned from all the people around them, it gave me a greater base. So that's what I do with anything. But then I try to take that complexity, like finance, with all these people and all the different approaches. Some are macro traders, some are value traders, et cetera, and say, what are the common denominators? How do I simplify that so we can actually use it?
Why is identity so important for us to shape a positive, powerful identity?
Well, first of all, so everybody understands what I mean by identity is we all have a way of identifying ourselves. We have a way of labeling ourselves. So most of us came up with our labels based on how we behaved. But really smart people can do stupid things. Really nice people can be mean. Mean people can be nice. And so if you judge yourself too soon, and most people's identity, their labels for themselves, who they think they are, has been based on their past and often many years ago. And so they don't update it. So the metaphor I'd give for identity is like, it's your comfort zone. It's not your goals. So if you took a temperature in the room and said 68 degrees is my comfort zone, physically, emotionally, financially, I want more in my relationship. I want more physically, energy-wise. I want more financially in my career, but this is what I'm used to. And so what happens? People stay in their comfort zone for the most part. And then let's say something happens and you dip. You're a 68 degreer, that's your mentality, and you drop down to 62, 61, 60, somewhere around 60 or 59, the heaters kick on and go, whoa, whoa, whoa. You're a 68 degreer. What the hell are you doing? We've all experienced that. All of a sudden you go, I'm not going to live like this anymore. I'm not going to be in this relationship. I'm not going to be fat like this. Boom. And you get this drive and you start to change. But what most people don't understand is it happens on the upper end too. Meaning, let's say you got momentum, you start crushing it, you start doing even better than you think. You go from 68 to 70, 88, you're at 98 degrees. Financially, emotionally, spiritually, whatever the metaphor is. And then what happens? You're going to say, hey, your brain goes, who the hell do you think you are? You're not a 98 degreer, right? Get back to 68. And if nothing else, the heaters stop, you lose your drive, and that'll drift you back. And not enough, the air conditioner can kick on, and you start to kind of sabotage yourself till you get back to your comfort zone. So unless you expand your identity, change is temporary. It's like when someone says to me, I've stopped smoking, it's been 8 days. And I go, why are you counting? And I say, why are you counting? So you can tell people how long you lasted this time? Ooh. Like if I went to somebody and I said to you, hey, Louis, you want a cigarette? You're not going to say, what brand is it? You go, no, right. I'm not a smoker. Notice how people are, I'm not one of those. That's not my identity. That fear that we're not enough is what's getting in the way. And you don't get over it. You get beyond it. And the way you get beyond it is you just train yourself. And as you just said, that's why in the seminars, it isn't just the content. It's putting you in a state where the content can land. Yeah. And when you put yourself in that state on a regular basis, those flows happen. Now, you want daily practices as well. So, every day I've got a variety of daily practices, but one of those things, I jump in freezing cold water every day, I think but I don't do it because I like it or I want it. There's never a day I look forward to it. Right. But I don't hesitate. I don't negotiate with myself. It's both physically great because it flushes your blood and your lymph system completely. And you feel like $1 million coming out of it. Going in it is painful as hell. But it's like, I don't say in a minute, when I'm ready, or maybe tomorrow. It's like, I say go, we go. So it's a mental training as well as it's a physical training, right? And when you do that over and over, and then you say, I'm going to do this, your brain doesn't negotiate. You've trained your own mind. So thinking the problem's permanent. No problem is permanent. Or you start thinking the problem's pervasive because I haven't handled my finances, my whole world's over. Or because my relationship's bad, my whole world's over. Your life is bigger than that. Or all this is happening because there's something wrong with me. When you get to that point, you stop trying. And so my goal right now is to shake that up for people. People need a new perspective, and you can't do it by just sitting and thinking. You got to move your body. You got to change your energy and your focus, because low level of energy, I don't think how smart you are, you're not going to use all your ability. But if I get you into a higher state of being, mentally, emotionally, physically, and all of a sudden you start remembering who you are and you start coming up with answers that you never even thought were possible before. I think the most important habit to start with is having something that you care about more than yourself. A mission. It could be your family. It could be photography. It could be your business. It could be, something you want to do in your community. It could be humanity, but I don't mean virtue signaling. I mean, what you're really driven by. And when people have something that they care about more than themselves, they don't run out of energy. They don't run out of excitement because, if it's just about you, it's easy to get comfortable. And comfort makes you not grow. People ask me all the time, Tony, you meet millions of people. What's the secret to happiness? And I always laugh and say, it's pretty simple. It's one word, progress. Progress equals happiness. Because if you're not making progress, you're not growing. And there's only a few rules in the universe. They're not mine. They're the universe. Everything grows or dies. And everything contributes beyond itself, or it's eventually eliminated by evolution. And so, for me, growing and giving is the game. And so you got to find something that makes you want to keep growing and giving so you don't get comfortable. You can't sit at the table of success too long or you get fat and bored, right? So we need to feel alive. A lot of people achieve a goal and then their brain goes, is this all there is? Or even if you achieved a goal you loved, You know, it's like you loved it. How long did you stay excited about whatever you succeeded at? You know, you may have worked on it for years. Did you stay excited for a year? Almost never. You know, 9 months, 6 months, 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 days, 3 hours, because you're not supposed to stay just satisfied, because our nature is to grow, and when we grow, we have something to give. So to me, that's the core. And so the bottom line is you need to be good at pattern recognition, and that's what gets somebody strong at anything. I mean, you look at, you know, why is Amazon doing so well? He realized one pattern was valued over anything else: convenience. Right? If you look at Tom Brady, a friend of mine, he's got pattern recognition like nobody else at 43 years old. He's able to do things no one dreamed could be done. He's got more Super Bowl rings than any team. So I said, I want to go to the best people on earth and see what do they see that none of us see. What's the pattern? Then you got to learn pattern utilization. It's one thing to see it, it's another thing to use it. And then if you're good after a while, you get to pattern creation. It's like if you learn to play the piano, most people play other people's music. And then there's a point you've learned so much that you're able to create. And I think those 3 skills are the most important skills. So I look at the areas that matter most and say, who already has that extraordinary pattern recognition utilization? So I go to Ray Dalio, who's, you know, returned more money to investors than anyone alive. You know, he's going to have a different level of understanding than the average person. What's the most powerful pattern of all? You've heard me talk about it before, that changed humanity, that took us from starving, running around as hunter-gatherers, to where we could stay in one place. It was one distinction. What was it? Recognizing the seasons. Understanding. See, before that, it was looked random. You planted in the winter. You didn't even know it was winter. You just knew it was cold. And for some reason, you worked your ass off and you got nothing for it. And what I began to look at here is like humanity, once it understood the seasons and knew when to plant and when not to. If you do the right thing at the wrong time, what kind of reward do you get? Zilch, nothing. So all of a sudden humanity understood this, and now we could stay in one place. We could build a community, we could build cities, we could build countries. That one distinction changed all of humanity. But there's also the seasons of your own life that's so valuable to understand. Think of it as 4 seasons of your life. 0 to 20, roughly, is your springtime. But that initial springtime, you're learning, you're growing, probably protected, you're absorbing things. That's the stage. Some people starts at 16, 14, some say 19, 20, but let's just call it around 21, you enter a different stage of life. You become kind of the soldier of life. You enter the summertime. 21 to 41, that's a different stage, isn't it? Now you go out in the world and say, I'm going to test this stuff. I was told all this, what's true? And you think you're going to be a billionaire or 10 times billionaire, and you're going to be president of the United States, and you're going to have 100 relationships, and it's all going to work out smoothly. And then you get your first relationship and discover none of that is true. And you start to understand that you have vulnerabilities, you find out you're not invincible. So this young adulthood is testing and discovering, just trying to figure out what's really real. That's when we learn a lot. And usually some of it is painful because it's not quite like we expected. But you're the soldier of society. Quite literally, that's where soldiers are, right? 21 to 41 usually, right? You're the person that goes to war. You're the person that's out there doing the hard work. Now, if you really grew in spring and you really grew in summer, then there's the fall, the autumn. And that means 42 to 62 is a real reaping time if you've grown. If you're not grown, like if you don't plant in the spring, you're going to weep in the fall. You're not going to reap in the fall, right? But if you push through the hot summer, it's a difficult time, those 21 to 41. By the way, when you ask people, when you do all the research on people, what's the most unhappy time of their life? It's that 2 decades. Not for every human, but for most. Because trying to figure out who the hell you are, prove to yourself, make it through all the bullshit, trying to figure what's going on in your life. But when you get to 42 to 62, again, if you've grown, if you've not grown, you're kind of stunted. There's not much crop. But now you're really in your midlife power. And you get to start to have a harvest time. This is for a lot of people their greatest financial time of their life. Because they built up understanding and they worked hard and developed skill sets, and now they're in a position to lead. They might start running an organization. They start to really grow, to expand. And then 63 to 83, you could think of as winter, and 83 to 120 is the oldest living humans. If you're fortunate enough, maybe you'll have an extended winter. But in this stage, you really end up being a leader who's really there to mentor. That's really the position you're in. It's like what I love most now. It's like the example I give you of playing a video game against a child. you know the child's always going to win. And it's not because they're faster or smarter. It's because they played this game a million times. They know the first bad guy's here, the next bad guy's here, the next bad guy's here. So they're able to do something really important. This is what today is all about, if you want it in a simple phrase. Anticipation is power. Anticipation is power. Leaders anticipate. Losers react. If you and I are going to have a great quality of life for our families, for our communities, for anybody we want to serve, our job is to anticipate. In order to do that, you got to recognize patterns. So these seasons of your life are precious. Every season has different challenges, right? How many can remember some of the challenges of the springtime of your life? I remember some of the challenges of the summer in that stage, the things you wrestled with. Some are still there. How many remember the fall experiences, right? So everything has opportunity, everything has challenge, and if you can anticipate the challenge, you can make that season a hell of a lot more enjoyable. Ultimately, I really believe that probably the most sacred thing in our lives that we can give another human being besides our love is our labor. You think about it, your labor is your energy, it's your time, it's your emotion, it's your intellect, it's your spirit to some extent. And if you can find a way where what you do for a living activates that sense of what you're made for, then work is not work, whether you be in Fiji or whether you be in an environment that might seem less exciting and promising in the moment. And trust me, I worked in plenty of those too. But with the same level of excitement and passion, because I found what turns me on, that makes me feel alive, makes me feel like I'm doing something that's worthwhile. And on Labor Day, I think a lot of people, it's just a holiday to get away and take time off of labor. And my hope is to trigger you to think about how could you turn your labor into your love? I think it was Mark Twain who said, when your vocation becomes your vacation, that's when life becomes truly magnificent. And I'm privileged enough to have that, but I pursued it. And one of the secrets that I found, and I know you know this in your soul, is that we all know if you're going to be masterful at something, you don't show up, as the best in the world at something. You don't show up in environments that you want to be in. You get there because you did things for thousands and thousands of hours. Most of you know the concept of mastery taking 10,000 hours. It's an arbitrary number, but I'm sure you've heard about it. You want to get really good at something, it's 10,000 hours, because when you do something enough, with enough intensity, enough intention to constantly get better, when your labor is your love, and where your labor is something you have to always get better at, then usually what happens is you get these insights that allow you to serve more. But I also think that labor, we're talking about this weekend, what makes people fulfilled by their labor is their motives for it. If your motive is just to make money or just to pay your bills or just to get rich or whatever you think that's going to be, those people never really are fulfilled even if they make the money. The most fulfilled human beings in my experience, and I've had the privilege of working with literally 4 million people from 125 countries now around the world, the people that are most alive, regardless of the economics, are people that have found something that they really feel the motive is more than just themselves. People think they have to know how. I call it the tyranny of how. Like, you get all excited, I'm going to do this, and then your brain goes, I've never done it before. Oh my God, what did I say? I don't know how to do this. And they tend to focus on how to do it. And when you start with how, you're screwed. Like, Martin Luther King had no idea how when he did his I Have a Dream speech. In fact, his wife was the one that pushed him because he was uncertain, right? If you know the real history, it's pretty interesting. But the bottom line is he gets up there and he gives his vision of how it can be done. He talked about what needs to happen and why. If you can figure out what you want and why you want it, and you get strong enough reasons that'll drive you late at night, it'll get you up early in the morning, and the reasons are different. Some people do it for nitty-gritty reasons. Some people do it for their kid. Some people will do it, like we'll almost all do it for something more than ourselves. Some people do it because they like winning, right? I know that about you, right? It's like, I like winning. I like being the best at what I do. So I'm not going to settle for less than that. Why would I, right? So you got to find your reasons. But if you know what you want and you get a big enough why, now you'll figure out how to do it. But if you start with how, the small brain, the fear brain, goes, oh shit, I don't know what to do, I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do 90% of the time either. I know what and why, and then I try something. It doesn't work, I try something else, and I do something else. Now I speed it up by learning from the best. So that's why, Money Master the Game is a perfect example. My companies, at the time were $100 million companies. I had one $500 million company. Now we're doing $7 billion. I took what I learned from these guys, I applied it not only to my investing, I applied it to my own businesses. Why do I reinvent the wheel when I just learned from the best on earth? I mean, somebody who's that good can tell you that little 2 millimeter thing that changes everything. So my life is really about learn from the best, but I don't start with the how. I start with the what and the why. Whether you're angry or whether you're worried, those are biochemical effects, but they're all based on what you focused on. If you were really angry, like they did it again, they're probably screwing around with somebody else. If you imagine that in your mind, you're going to be upset. But if you were worried, you thought, what if they're in a car accident? You're going to get a very different biochemical effect. But people have habits of what they focus on. And those habits become your biochemical habits as well. And so they reinforce each other. It's not a one-way street. So that's why, I really believe exercise is one of the most important elements, pushing someone beyond their normal comfort zones physiologically, while you simultaneously are working on their head, creating something. So you need strong physiology. You need a really clear focus because you're only experiencing what you focus on. The human brain is a distortion, deletion, and generalization device. Your conscious mind can only handle so many things at once. You're not thinking about your clothing touching your skin or the sound of your heartbeat till I mention it, or let's say the sound of in your ear of being able to hear that heartbeat. All those things I have to call your attention to because your brain is deleting most of what's going on so it's not overwhelmed consciously. So we pay attention to a small amount of things. So if you're really happy, you're deleting all the things that could piss you off or make you worried. If you're really worried, you're deleting all the things you could be grateful or happy about. So, and we tend to generalize our lives because we're cognitive misers. We don't want to think things through. So if you have strong physiology, strong focus, then the third piece is meaning is what creates emotion. Like if somebody says something and you go, they're disrespecting me, or they're challenging me, or they're coaching me, or they're loving me. Well, whichever word you select for those sensations in your body, your biochemistry becomes.